This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay. So this is the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. It is Tuesday, November 15th, and it is 6:17 p.m. Does anyone want to take notes? Okay. Either.
Do not bring a lot of paper, so hopefully we don't have that much.
Yeah. So hopefully Kyle will join us in a little bit. And then he can provide some updates on the Housing Coalition. And actually, I have an update on town lodging that Jamie gave me for last month, but I will wait to see if Jess joins because then she can also potentially participate in that. So the other things that were on my agenda for last meeting, which we didn't end up having, was talking about recruiting, and then also maybe talking about other priorities that we wanted to focus on for the next year. I was going to pull up the housing production plan on my.
And could we have an update on what is happening now with the RFP?
Oh,
Is there an update, or is that just?
I think
You for the schools?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can provide an update whenever you want to.
you can do it right now.
And I didn't mean right now, but just.
No, it's a good question.
Yeah. So just take notes on this as I think about this. School fees. So the city released the RFP around mid-September, and
It's mid-October.
yep, mid-October.
Like,
Was it mid-September?
seems like it was longer ago, but
I know,
I
doesn't
was
it?
like, it was only like a month ago, but I was just like, it's still October.
Yeah.
And we won't know anything until until we get the responses, and I believe the responses are due in February.
okay.
Wasn't there a required walkthrough though?
Yes, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know who went, and
I think there was a required walkthrough, and I think Jeff told me that there were like people signed up to go on the walkthrough,
Walk through for what?
like of the buildings, I think. Right?
Another, not the
Like
tour.
for the people responding to the RFP, there was like a required.
Okay.
I'm looking at the RFP. There was a required action that they had to do. They'd like go do something.
there was a required walkthrough.
And I think he said that there were like, oh, someone's joining us. It is Jessica. That there were people going. So that was, I had an interesting conversation on joining the board at Wayfinders in Springfield. And I was talking to Keith, the executive director, and we were talking about Easthampton, and he was like, oh, talking about the school RFP. And he said that like Wayfinders was really busy and like probably wouldn't respond because they had so many other projects going on. And he was like, and I've heard the same about other developers. And I was like, that's not great news. But then I happened to talk to Jeff, and he said there were like 20 people registered to go on the whatever the walkthrough was. So that was
Good.
encouraging that there were people interested. Some developer who did a school in Auburn, I think. I can't remember the name of the developer. Someone that I'd never heard of, but had done a school renovation in Auburn. I think they were interested. They were coming. So anyway, but yeah, it's due in February. Is that when it's due?
I think that's the date I remember. Might be March. I don't know. I didn't because it was delayed in getting released.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I'm looking at it now. Let's see. Oh yes, responses are due February 16th. So we won't know for a while. Has there been any? I know last time we went to city council about this, they had not really resolved this, but like who's on the committee? They still hadn't really developed the scoring criteria. Have you heard any?
I don't know anything updated about that. I believe that the scoring criteria was it was included in the RFP as released, but then there was a piece of it that
that
wasn't.
they didn't do yet or something.
So it was like the rating system was
Yeah, there was some
included,
piece,
but
yeah.
there was like a detail to it that was not
Okay.
included. I don't believe that there's a response review group.
Okay.
I heard that they were, like, it could just be city councilors, or the city council could choose to like invite other people to be part of that.
Okay.
So it might be helpful if to sway city council if people want to talk to them, to be like, housing
Right.
partnership would like to be involved, would like to be on the.
I think it would be good to have
But I think
some
that-
others than just the city council, but
Definitely.
that's my personal.
Well, so I mean, I think it would be,
Yeah,
it would be probably the property committee. And then they would make a recommendation and then go to full city council.
On who's on the committee?
And also if they just decide that it's just them,
Oh.
then it would just be most likely the property subcommittee who then makes their recommendation to the full city council. So I don't know what they're thinking though. So if
Right.
people want to go to the city council and speak to that at public speak.
I could try to do some digging and see if I can find out what's happening.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because February feels like a long time, but it's actually not.
Nope.
Okay. Great. I see that Jessica has joined us. So we could do, so I had sent the memo that we wrote to the mayor about town lodging, 75 Oliver Street. And she wrote me back and said, yes, I agree that it's a valuable site. Valley CDC was interested, and we're trying to figure out the next best steps and would appreciate any thoughts from the partnership. And then Jamie sent me an email with more updates. So I don't know if you want to.
I don't have that email in front of me.
Do you want your email back so you can update us?
Sure. So what I said was, I just wanted to give a quick update to the mayor and Jenna, what the planning department had been working on, as well as what other groups. And so DPW has been involved in securing the building, winterizing it, and conducting property maintenance. They also helped with the brush clearing in the back of the building to help prep for the archaeological survey that was done, or to make sure that there was not a burial ground on the
Oh,
property.
okay.
That
Which property?
this is town lodging house, and so the
Okay.
back of the property was just overgrown with a lot of
Yeah.
like successional vegetation and invasives, bittersweet, and things like that. And it was just so they came and they knocked it all down, and then and then Valley CDC has been involved a lot, and they've been just kind of taking it one step at a time. And had an historic architect come in and look at it to make sure, the existing building. He wrote a report basically stating that it was feasible to renovate it, that it had, the interior was not historically intact, and so you'd want to, that like it would be okay to make changes to the interior. Made some suggestions for where an outbuilding could be placed, because the town lodging house isn't quite large enough to make a project that's economically viable for any nonprofit housing developer. And then after that report, then this is where we did Valley CDC did the survey, archaeological survey, to make sure there was no historic burial grounds that weren't marked. and that survey just was completed and
Okay.
Came back negative. But it did identify that there was a bunch of building foundations. Like there were like two old barns, an ice house, and a couple of wells that are in that back area. And any development of that, future development of that property needs to like stay away from disturbing those foundations, because those foundations are listed as part of the National Register nomination as contributing to the site.
Complicated.
Wow.
But it's good. The good news is there are places, it's tight, but it probably can be done.
Okay.
And so now the next step is Valley's looking at conducting a preliminary unit count, design configuration, and developing a pro forma to see if it's feasible to do that.
Okay.
We'll get updates as they go along.
Jess, if you can hear us, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think Jamie summarized it pretty well. I will note that for the unit count, I think the max that we would be able to potentially look at is 30 units, 12 units in the existing building. And under zoning, we wouldn't be able to have more than 18 units in one building. So the outbuilding would be confined at 18 units. I think some of the other challenges too, I mean, Jamie noted the outbuilding, but we've got under the historic preservation restriction, the outbuilding would need to look like a historic barn. There's a photograph that shows an old barn. And so our historic consultant indicated that Mass Historic would really only approve any additions to the site if that outbuilding looked like a historic barn. So there's a lot, like you said, Jana, it's complicated, and we're keep poking at it and we're doing due diligence on it. But right now, our next step is to see if we can get the numbers to work. So using 30 units as probably the high number, are we able to use historic tax credits and LIHTC and make a deal that's viable? So that's the huge question.
Jessica, I got a question about the 12 in the existing building. Is that you're looking at doing it like an enhanced SRO and you would lose about half of the existing units?
Yeah, so DHCD, they're not really down with the model that's the lodging house model anymore. They really want kitchenettes and individual bathrooms in each unit. So we would be looking to try to meet the DHCD standards. I don't think we'd be able to hit the square footage requirements if we were building a new building and we were building studio units. I think 500 square feet. Our East Gables project, the units are under 300 square feet, but they're tiny. They're super tiny. So, looking at somewhere between 300 and 400 square feet so that people could have their own individual bathroom and kitchen. So, and also from just like an ongoing management operations perspective, thinking about the future of the tenants, does it make sense? Like, what's the combination of unit mix? Is it studios in one building and then family housing in another, and it's not on a bus line? So we've got studio. I mean, it's a stop. You have to dial in to get a bus up there, but it's not on the official Nashwanik Express line. So there's a lot of things that we're kind of weighing to see if it's a site that makes sense for us and just the long-term operations of it in that ongoing unit mix.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Has to look like a barn. People wonder why it's so expensive to build housing in Massachusetts. Thank you, Jeff. Hi, Kayam. I see looked like you were walking before, but I'm glad you joined us.
Yeah, I'm still walking back to my car. Sorry.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. All right. So other things on the we'll wait for Kayam to get to his car. Other things on the agenda were recruiting strategies and potentially starting, maybe not finishing, a conversation about priorities. So we are down to basically 4 active members. Kate Shapiro I'm pretty sure her time is up at the end of this calendar year and she doesn't plan to renew, and she obviously hasn't been coming. We have 9 seats. So we have 5 seats that we could try to fill. I don't think we'll be able to get to 9, but I would like us to think about some recruiting and people we might know, or like other things we could do to recruit. So we could do we could do a Facebook post. We could do, and then put it out, out on the city page, out on some of the other, pages like Easthampton Math. We could do a newspaper article. I don't know. I do think we should try to think outside the box about how to get some new members, because our kind of general method has been like, oh, I know somebody who might be interested. I'm going to go talk to them. And sometimes those people join, but a lot of, sometimes they don't stay.
Right.
And so I am interested in anyone's feedback about what we could do to recruit new members. And I don't know how successful any of the city committees are about recruiting new members. Is there anything we can learn from other committees?
I'm trying to remember how. I think I just over Facebook would get, would see posts from various city councilors about joining city committees, and finally I thought, okay, I'll do it. And then I looked at the committees, but I don't think that's typically what people do. It wasn't, I wasn't asked. It was my own idea, independent.
I had a similar way of finding the partnership. I knew I wanted to get involved in local government, and I looked at the vacant seats and decided that this was the group that I felt my interests aligned with the most.
Yeah, same.
Right. So people have to already be wanting to participate in local government. So I think there are some people who do that, but I think there's a lot of people who don't even know that it's
well, and when you think about the articles that have come out about the city council, and that people are feeling there's that whole discussion about, do people feel like they could be on the city council, or that it's accessible to them. So if you broaden that out and think about committees, I think that there is a sense that, and there is a sense that there's something mysterious about it and intimidating, I think, for a lot of people, or what am I getting myself into kind of thing. But I will say that when I looked to join, on one hand, it seemed really easy. I sent my letter and everything, got a call from Nicole LaChapelle. It was kind of exciting, and so I felt very special. But then there was the part where there was the committee that reviews people who apply, and I kept hearing the word vetted. You'll be vetted. And I really didn't like that term, because I thought, on one hand I understood, but on the other hand I thought, what do you mean vetted? That's what happens when you're paid to do something.
That happens when you're running for office.
Right. It just felt a little off-putting, but I thought that,
Right.
I was kind of if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And, and I thought that's just a word that's being used, but it doesn't really mean what I think it means. But it felt, I think that it's important to get where people are coming from when they're on committees, but to not make people feel like it's that intimidating. And I think that could be changed, but I didn't know that until I got into it.
So I think that's a symptom of the mayor makes the recommendation to the city council, and the city council approves the appointment. And so that's sort of so far removed outside of what the partnership can do, because I feel like this isn't just the housing partnership.
Right, it's not
like,
just
It's
us.
a general
it is
thing,
like
yeah.
across the board.
Yes.
A lot of our boards and committees have membership issues. And, you know, fortunately, our permitting boards are fully staffed right now.
Right.
But it's hard to get members and maintain members. And I think we've had good luck when there have been consistent pushes, and like, so one Facebook post is never gonna do it.
Right.
It has to be like something where like on a, you know, monthly basis, someone says there's vacancies in those cities, boards and
Yeah.
committees, and
The city doesn't have someone, like one person who's responsible for social media.
no, we have mayor's page, we have the city
Yeah.
page, we have the planning page, we have the
Because that's the thing with
like,
social media. Like you have to have someone who's like posting all the time so that several years ago, this was like, I don't know, 8 years ago. So, like the city hosted an event and it was at the high school. You remember this?
Mhm.
And it was about civic engagement. It was actually a really cool event. And they had a consultant that was doing it, and it was about civic engagement and how to get involved. And there was a whole thing about vacant boards, and everybody spoke about their committee. And there was like, it was actually, I thought, really nice. And I do think that like we have not been successful in like replicating. I mean, that's the kind of thing you could do every year.
Definitely. Yeah.
And there's been other events, like there was like a meet and greet at the brewery one night, which was attended by all of the committee members and nobody knew. Like Mill Pond Live, they used to have like you could do a table and stuff. But so last night at this meeting that I went to that the Commission of Disability hosted with the committee chairs, the Community Relations Committee has been talking about this same issue, like how to basically like inform community members like about what the city does. And so she was actually talking about like making videos about each committee. I could suggest we could be the guinea pig. I think their problem is they don't have a lot of capacity. So I think they have people who are, you know, attending, but they're not, it didn't sound like they had a lot of capacity to like make things happen.
Most committees don't. I mean,
That's the problem.
all of the volunteer committees are volunteers, and
Yeah.
how much
everyone
time?
has
And how much
jobs
time?
and
You
families
come once a month for an hour and a half meeting, and how much work are you going to be able to do for your
Right.
volunteer thing outside of your job and outside of your family and other,
Right.
you know, life balance stuff? So.
Well, could we, I mean, keep it sort of simple and narrow and say, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So each of us, I think we're all on social media,
Mm-hmm.
can post.
Yeah.
Or we could have a video that we each share, like something
Yeah.
common that we each share. But something just that instead of thinking like tackling the whole problem of like how to get people to engage in
Right.
the entire city,
Right.
just say like, how do we get people on our
How do people
committee?
engage with us?
So one of the things the Commission on Disability recently did, well, it's not recent. It's recent that it was completed.
Mhm.
They did a public service announcement about shoveling your sidewalk.
Mm.
It's been something
Yeah.
that they've been interested in doing for a while. They finally got it together
Mhm.
at the end of last winter. Too late to like make the PSA like
Right.
good for last year, so they kind of like worked on over the summer a bit. They worked with Easthampton Media to help them do the videoing and the editing and putting it all together, and that's something that then runs now, I believe, regularly on Easthampton Media. I don't know how many people watch Easthampton Media, but it might be worth, you know, joining up with the CRRC and Easthampton Media to try to just do a
Yeah.
spot about their vacancies on a board, and like it can just run like
Right.
regularly.
Even if it's just like a simple thing.
Or if, and that we could reinforce it on social media.
Yeah.
To, you know,
I just had a fleeting moment of thought. Now I can't remember what it was. I don't remember. Yeah, no, I mean, I think doing, I mean, that's what I was thinking. I mean, it's back to me. No, I mean, I like the idea of doing like something that's kind of simple, like I think one of the things that we struggle with partnership is that it's not clear, like what we do, like what do we actually do? You know, we don't really do, we advocate for things. And so if we came up with like a little advertisement, like that we could share on Facebook, we also could say like, why don't you come to our February meeting, come to our, and like see what we're doing, or watch us on like advertise when the meeting time, that we meet hybrid. Why don't you come check us out or come to us in person? Like I don't know if it'll work, but I would love to like encourage people.
Just need 2 or 3 people. I mean, if
Right.
in terms of like, if you think about it.
Right, we don't need a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Kate, that I do think that there is this like mysterious factor of like, but I don't think most people know that how you even apply to get on a board. And I think a lot of people think everybody's elected or handpicked by the mayor.
You have to know someone.
You have to know somebody, or, and I think it is a little intimidating. I mean, I used to be terribly intimidated when I was new on the board because you're interacting with, city council and people that seem to have a lot more power than you do.
Right.
Whether they do or not, they seem like they do.
Dispelling that, like getting a little bit more down to earth. Because it's not, I mean, I felt intimidated, but not that much. But I think especially, I'm also older, so especially for wanting people who are a bit on the young side.
Right.
It's easier to be intimidated when you're young.
I also think people think, like when I first joined, I had like just moved here. And so you also feel like, oh, I don't know anything. I'm not from here. Everybody's from here.
Yeah.
But really, like having people who are new is also really valuable because they bring a new perspective and young people and all that stuff. All right.
So what would be a specific thing that we could pull together and then share, with Easthampton media and or social media? Like if
you want to work with Easthampton media, I would encourage just like emailing them and being, we'd like to do a PSA about vacancies on the Housing Partnership Board.
Yeah. What do you think?
What do you think? And is that something you could work with us on? And like, they will, they'll respond. I mean, they're always looking to create new content. So, and they have a studio.
What does the snow removal one look like?
I've seen something on
It's like
Facebook.
30 seconds or a minute.
Is it on Easthampton Media now?
Yeah.
I never find anything.
But
on
it's
Easthampton.
I don't know where on the.
Did it come as a press release from the city?
Yes, it did.
Did it? I'm just curious what it looks like. Did it come from Lindsay?
It would have come from civic engagement. And it would have been, I think, towards the middle of October.
I don't know. Here. Oh, here it is. Is this the video? That's a picture of snow. Good morning. See the attached press release. Last fall, click here to watch the video. right, do you want me to share my screen so everyone can see this?
Yes.
Present now.
Will it be on that screen? I don't have my.
Let's see. What is happening?
It's don't share your entire screen, just share your browser window.
Okay, wait. Like, why are there 100 of them? Oh, a window. Okay. Oh. Well, no, it's not. Where is it? Sorry, I'm challenged by this. A tab. There we go. How's that?
Great.
Hello, Easthampton residents. This is Angelique Baker, the chairperson of the Easthampton Commission on Disability. I want to take a few minutes of your time to inform you about the importance of snow removal for public safety generally, and especially for our residents and visitors with disabilities. We all know how hard it is to get around town when there's a snowstorm, and the difficulty is greatly magnified for people with mobility and other issues who must depend on our sidewalks to get where they're going. All members of our community should be able to do this without fear of getting hurt, and no one should have to worry about traveling part way down a sidewalk only to have to turn around because it's not completely cleared of snow and ice. We all must work together to make Easthampton as fully accessible as we can for all our citizens, and the only way we can do this is with everyone's help. While you're clearing your sidewalks, also remember to clear snow and ice from around any fire hydrants that you find. Easthampton has an ordinance in effect requiring property owners to clear snow and ice from sidewalks and can impose financial penalties for those who do not comply. In addition, Massachusetts state law requires that landlords must clear sidewalks within 12 hours of a snowstorm. Thank you for your help keeping Easthampton a great place to live and an accessible place for all.
So that's produced by the COD was the one who was interested in starting that. And the Easthampton Media was happy to help and volunteer their staff time or whatever to put it together and do all the editing and came up with pretty decent quality video, I think.
Yeah.
So
How would that, I'm trying to think how that would translate to a recruitment video.
well, I guess my understanding is that that's something that they now play on the Easthampton. Like if you watch on the TV as opposed to watching online, that's something that would just like periodically play in between
Committee meetings.
in between the Affordable Housing Board and City Council
Oh,
meetings
joy.
and stuff like that.
I mean, I feel like if we were gonna do one, it probably wouldn't be a video. Like we would probably have like a slide or a couple, right? Like it would be like something visual, maybe not a video. It could be us talking. We look very approachable. We could show. I mean, I don't know. We could. I guess that was what Easthampton Media could help us with, but
Or you could play the video from like 35 years ago with the one that you sent to us.
5 years ago. That was like 2013 or something. Yes,
That'll get people excited.
we could. I think I'm being sarcastic. We could play that. We could ask them to keep playing that though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of doing something, even if it's just like an ad, like an ad
Mhm.
that we could share. And then maybe Easthampton Media could just play our little thing, and then we could do a voiceover to say like, something about the housing partnership.
Or just about housing, and I mean, there could be a way in terms of people's, I mean, everyone's talking about it,
Everybody's talking about
that
it.
it's and getting harder and harder to find affordable housing anywhere,
Yeah.
but we can focus on Easthampton.
I mean, one question I have for you, Kayam, and you're probably driving, but is just whether or not this, I mean, we could do a dual recruitment push for both Housing Coalition members and Housing Partnership. I don't want to like confuse the issue,
Right.
but I know the
Right.
Housing Coalition also could use a little bit more,
Mhm.
you know, so there's like two ways to get involved. Like one is being appointed to a city committee and one is like doing more of a grassroots organizing effort. So we could also combine it as like a joint recruiting effort or not. I don't know how people feel about that.
Could be very.
I mean, I think I think no matter what, recruiting to either sort of helps the other, I guess. I mean, I could be wrong there, but I think that even if we don't intentionally do a push like of a joint recruitment, I think just having more people aware of the advocacy opportunities and like the stuff that needs to be that needs to happen in Easthampton, I think will attract people to whatever their capacities allow them. But I don't know, that's sort of my
That's a good-
abstract thought.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse people, but I do. I mean, maybe we pull them in and then we say, oh, there's these two options, rather than like,
And is it allowed to do something like pull people in? Like, are you concerned about, you know, housing in Easthampton or being able to afford housing, people being able to, or whatever, you know, call 1-800-JANA and
well, we have,
and
yeah.
and is there can they be directed to someone who could sort of triage them, like to, you know, to say you maybe, you know, this sounds like, or to give them the both.
Yeah, I mean, we have the Affordable Fair Housing Partnership email address, right? So that was created, which I think is great because it doesn't have to go, and nobody's personal email address is like plastered all over Facebook. So we could always do a little blurb, say if you were interested, like here's when the Housing Partnership meets, and or here's an email for more questions. And then if people have questions, we could have like a here's what the partnership does, like a concrete sentence, which I feel like we don't really have very, you know, like concrete couple sentences of here's what the partnership does, and then a couple concrete sentences like here's what the Easthampton Housing Coalition is doing. I mean, that might be like a good first step actually, is to actually look at what does it say. Can't see my screen, right? Okay. On the Easthampton, what does it say about what the Housing Partnership does? So I feel like, I mean, I guess they're all very vague. Communities. The mission is to support and promote fair and affordable housing through education and advocacy, as well as to serve as a local resource. I don't like that it says that. To serve as a local resource for tenants and landlords regarding fair housing laws and complaints. It's actually not true.
Well, isn't that true? Because it was the
It is, but we're
affordable
not. If someone came to us and said, I have a fair housing concern, we would not deal with that on our own. We would say, you need to call the Mass Fair Housing Center. I mean, I guess we are a local resource, but we would not like mitigate a fair housing concern because that's not our area of expertise.
And when the way that when I first started, I was told, I can't remember by who or how, that part of us was an advisory committee to the mayor. Does that?
It's sort of true.
Is that true? I just sort of. Or to city, or to the city. I don't know.
I think that we could. That's sort of true if they ask for advice.
Right.
Right, like that's the trick. If they ask
I'll
for,
be anyone's consultant if they
ask
know what I
for.
think.
So if they
Yeah.
ask for our advice, yes, we would be the advisory. The trick is that we don't always get asked.
Right.
I was talking to Jeff last week, and I did suggest, like, currently, if a developer is interested in building affordable housing, they could come to the housing partnership first. talk to us, make sure we support their project before they go on to planning board, CPA, wherever else they're gonna go. They don't have to.
Mhm.
In some communities, they have to.
Oh, really?
And I think that could be interesting, right? So like if there's a project brewing about, you know, they don't have to come to us. They can just go straight to planning board.
Mhm.
But it would be in their, in my opinion, their best interest to come to us first, because then we could say, oh, well, we hate that part of your project. And we, you know, like it would be better for them to hear from us first about what if we support or have concerns or comments, then go to planning board. And then we show up to planning board and say, well, actually, I don't think you should do it that way. But that's not a requirement.
Right.
I don't know what the would take to that to be a requirement. I actually think it would be good if it was a requirement.
I mean, it could also act as a stumbling block if it's another set of hoops that a developer has
But
to.
it's not like,
But if a market rate
But if we were,
development doesn't
if we
need to,
did it differently, if we did
yeah,
it in certain ways, it could be.
yes,
it's
like
cool.
because
Yeah.
if a market rate developer doesn't have to meet,
Yeah.
and then affordable housing developer does and needs to get the approval of the housing partnership before they can even go to,
I mean, I hear what you're saying.
like, it's just like another step.
That makes it harder,
And like whether or not it's like actually harder, it's just
perceived as harder.
one more thing that they have to do amongst a million things that, you know.
It's true. I mean, I hear what you're saying. All right. Oh, yeah. Hi, Jess.
Can I just jump in for a second in response to that?
Of course. Yeah.
So, sorry, I have a horrible head cold, so I'm not going to turn on my screen because you don't need to see me right now. But I would say a smart affordable housing developer is going to be looking for community members to show up at public hearings, whether it's a CPA request, whether it's a planning board hearing. And so they're typically going to be coming to you anyway to give a presentation to get your support in advance of any requests for funding or permitting. So just putting that out there. Not everybody does it, but
Right.
Those in the community development world are community developers. So we're trying to meet community needs. So we want to get the input before we move ahead. So.
Well, right, but I feel like you're the only ones that do that. So like 15 Cottage Street, they didn't do it. They just went straight in.
Who is that? Cottage Street?
Because I think everybody was excited about it and they didn't perceive, I don't know, but they didn't come to us first.
They're also a private developer versus a CDC.
Well, that's what my point is. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
like Valley CDC does that and it's to your benefit, right?
Right.
But private developers don't either know to, I mean, maybe it's just like a strong suggestion from the planning department. Like, you don't have to do this, but
Right.
it would be a good idea if you did.
I'll also note that in Amherst, because we're requesting money from them right now under CPA for a project we're doing there, is we were required to get to go before their housing trust and give a presentation before we submitted our application, because they do one big lump sum review. So it's a different process than Easthampton, but that is part of their process. Like no matter if you're requesting for open space money, you have to go to the Conservation Commission. So, that is part of their review process. So, okay, I'm going to lie down again.
So one thing that I'm thinking as we're talking about all of these things is like, we could look at what's the description, like what's the description of what's our overview look like on the website? Is there a way to make that like jazz it up a little, like make it more clear? I don't know how Jamie feels about this, but we could write, we strongly encourage developers of affordable housing to come to the housing partnership first, right? Like we could say that's what we think you should do.
Or could we say it in a way like we offer, or we'd
love to hear about your project and
we want to support you.
right. We want, yeah.
Like to make it so that people would feel like they want it, that it would be helpful.
Right.
Versus
Yeah, I mean,
like,
if it's a value add,
Yeah.
then like,
versus a step.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We could do that. I think that might be our first step, because if we update the overview to make it, I don't know.
Tantalizing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're doing at work,
To clarify it.
yeah, and one of the things that we're doing at work is making sure that everything that we put on our, like, out to the public, either to staff, is we run it through to see what the grade level is of it, and make, like, basically, like, make it so that it's like a grade 9 reading level and clearer. And so, like, when we use words like, I don't know, this is just very wordy. And, like, I by nature am very wordy, but it's like the partnership supports efforts to maintain and develop quality, long-term, affordable housing, blah, 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 blah. Like, I feel like we could also simplify it a
Yeah.
little bit so that it feels more accessible.
Mhm.
Right. And if we do that, then that might help us move on to, like, how we're gonna, like, do some advertising.
I think that's a really good idea.
Mhm.
Especially given the fact that we're in the holiday season.
Well, right, so nobody's joining a board between now and
Right.
New
So
Year's Eve.
so we could take advantage of the fact that people will be somewhat distracted right now, so we wouldn't be putting out anything anyway,
Right.
perhaps. And to clarify that language.
I'd also think it might be helpful to put out a press release that just, because a press release is going to get sent to, if it's sent through the mayor's office, it goes to all of the print and radio and TV. It probably won't get picked up by all of them, but if, you know, one or two of the newspapers pick it up, or, you know, that might help. And also a press release gets usually posted in some way to hit the front page of the website.
Right.
And also then will often get sent out to anybody who's subscribed to the Civic Plus stuff. So
Okay.
it might have further reach than just Facebook. Because I'm not sure how many people are these days.
You call us old.
That's what my daughter tells me. She's 21. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, what do they use?
TikTok? We could do it. Or what about a good, like, think about who you are thinking about for a committee. What about a committee letter to the editor of the Gazette?
Mhm.
You know, or something.
I think
Believe is
it's
that
like
too.
an opinion letter is just going to hit one paper,
Yeah.
but a press release is going to get sent
Yeah.
to everybody. You could do a combination where you make the press release and then a week later you
Right.
follow up
I
with an
guess that's
opinion.
what I
You
mean. I
follow
don't
up
mean
with
one or the
you
other.
like convert it to the opinion piece.
Yeah.
You know, I was just looking at the Easthampton website, just to look at what's, you know, which boards have vacancies, and it's a little confusing because it looks like that each board only has one vacancy, but the housing partnerships listed twice, once with 2 vacancies that was, one was posted on September of 2021, the other was posted in January of 2022, and then the next line says housing partnership 1 vacancy, July 2022 was when it's posted. But most of them have, like the Manhattan Rail Trail Committee has 1, 2, 3, 4 listings, each with 1 vacancy because it's posted by when the term ends.
Oh,
Okay.
So, and like the terms are all sort of scattered. So rather than seeing, you know, the housing partnership needs 3, but I think that's wrong, or it wasn't updated.
it's not updated. I mean, on here it says we need 3 because it still has Jackie listed as a member, but she
Okay.
resigned. And
Right.
Kate Shapiro is still a member, but she's not coming. Yeah, so we really have 4, and we will have 5 probably in January. So I think that's when Kate's, I think her term is up at the end of the year.
Another option is if the 9 members is too many to try to fill, and the board is more of a 5 or 7 member board, then
Yeah.
we can look to.
Oh, lower than that. 9 is a lot, I think.
But I think it was at 9 because when the housing partnership merged with the Fair Housing Committee, that was the number of people that were
Maybe.
on the 2 different boards.
Hmm. Okay.
And I don't know anyone who was on the Fair Housing Committee.
There was one guy I remember specifically when it merged, and he never, like, we reached out to him but he never came.
I also wonder if it's worth reaching out to old members or former members rather, who've left, because at the time they had other things going on that made it complicated, but maybe now that there's been some time that they're interested in rejoining.
Who has a list of former members? Barbara? I mean, like in my head, I have a list, but I'm sure I would not remember everybody.
I don't know if Barbara has. I mean, if you looked at the letterhead that you've been using over the years,
It's true.
you do have the like different.
I update it.
Yeah, but you must have like saved documents
Yeah,
that have
I
older
do.
stuff.
I do. I do. Okay.
I mean, I'm only thinking of the members who were like on the committee for like a substantial amount of time, and not the people who joined for
A few months.
a few months and then resigned.
Okay. Well, I mean, one on my list was to talk about priorities, and I feel like this is a big priority,
Yeah.
right? So like,
Yeah.
update the overview, talk about like some advertising, recruiting strategies, like do a push in the beginning of 2023 to try to get some new members. I think that would give us plenty to do for the next 2 or 3 months.
I agree.
Okay. Kaim, is there anything else you want to add? I know you're driving.
I have just got home, so perfect timing.
Okay.
I mean, nothing that I can think of other than, I mean, I think if we as a committee had a little bit more of a clear set of like regular responsibilities, I think it might entice people, because they're, like if we released a quarterly Easthampton housing report, that talked about the market rents and the biggest challenges facing the community in terms of affordable housing, something like that would help us build visibility and also make people feel like, oh, that's something I want to be a part of. Like, that's something I want to help create. But also it's very much coming from like my point of view, which is like, I'm a little bit of a civic engagement nerd, and that would like really get me excited. But, that's my thought when we talk about like priorities and like how to build capacity and build,
Okay. I think that's a great idea, actually. I hadn't thought of that.
Similarly, like the EDIC has just started.
I loved that. It was so cool.
So what?
It's called the EDIC Agrees. It's
That was hilarious.
and so they just have like a short little commentary or blurb about like what the city is doing and what the EDIC thinks about that.
What is the ED? I'm sorry.
It's the Easthampton Development and Industrial Commission, or Economic Development and Industrial Commission.
I don't know anything about it.
Wait, I'm going to show it to you because I thought it was adorable. It was like I thought it was really cute.
Yeah.
It's backed by popular demand, apparently. Okay, wait, let me share my screen. Maybe I just want to do a tab. So it's like a little newsletter. So it's talking about like things that are going on, and it basically says like, EDIC agrees. Like, we think this is great.
And what is this entity?
So it's like a,
It's the Economic Development Industrial Commission.
it's
I know
like,
you-
they
but,
promote like business.
where did it come from?
Oh,
They're-
it's been around a long time, I
They,
think.
they were established in the 1950s.
How have I lived here this long and not know?
Well, they're a combination of the Development and Industrial Commission and the Economic Development Corporation.
That's like all.
And
All words
basically,
that don't make sense.
and they originally formed as a way to create things like they were like creating a pond that would power mills. Like they could do bonding on behalf of the town before we had like a city council that could do those types of things. And now they're they meet monthly and they discuss.
And who comprises the group?
It's like a volunteer
like
group.
us.
It's the same.
But not a city group.
It is a city group.
Yeah.
It's a city committee.
Okay.
Its mission is to support and enhance the economic environment for the current and future businesses, residents, and the community at large.
See, they need to rework their.
Past projects include an annual downtown cleanup, community-wide visioning, downtown beautification initiatives, and summits with business leaders. For a while, they were really hot. They were really hot on senior housing. They went through a housing phase where that was a big focus. And we did have a couple joint meetings with them. And
They've also reached out to the coalition to do some sort of collaboration there too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they definitely care about housing. Gwen Morrissey's the chair, and Tom Brown spoke at the school reuse.
Okay.
He had the fishing analogy. Yes.
Yep.
He did a great job.
Yep.
And he's been around a long time.
Yes.
But yeah, they are a little bit like, they have a strange description. But yeah, they put out that newsletter, which I thought was adorable. It was like,
Yeah.
you know,
So it doesn't have to be, building off what Kayam said, it doesn't have to be a lot, but something that the housing partnership does that gets the name out there will,
right. That
will
we
help
do it
with,
regularly. Yeah. Well, we also have a lot of data just sitting in the housing production plan that we could pull out. And MHP Mass Housing Partnership has this data town thing that you can get data on your community, which is interesting. So it does provide some data. I don't know. Sometimes I know they used it for the Housing Coalition meeting, and some of the statistics, I remember we were like, where did you get that? There's it goes from data town. I'm like, I don't know if that's correct, but generally it has some interesting stuff. So I think that's a great idea. So I'm happy. So our next meeting is December 22nd. I'm happy to start a redraft of what we are. And I can circulate it before the meeting. If
Okay.
folks want to add to it, and we could talk about it on December 20th. Can folks still make it on December 22nd? Yeah.
Yeah, as far as I know, I can.
All right. Does that sound like a good plan?
It does.
Okay. I'll try to send it out to you all the week before. Okay. Kyan, do you want to give any updates on the Housing Coalition?
Yeah, I can do a quick overview. We haven't met since the last time I emailed you that update. Our next meeting is scheduled for, let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it's scheduled for November 30th at 7 p.m. On Zoom. And yeah, the last meeting was pretty sparsely attended. It was just me and Counselor Riley. And we talked through some of the data that I've been digging through in my master's program a lot with like the housing stuff, the needs and like what the demographics look like around here and just the direction of the housing market and like rising interest rates and what that means for people trying to buy houses, like what income levels are actually being priced out by rising interest rates, given like the same priced house kind of thing. So all that data I provided to Jenna in a PowerPoint. So if anyone's interested, I'm sure that she could send it to you, or reach out to me and I can send you a copy. But yeah, I also did a first draft of the mission statement, which, since it was just Councilor Riley, I'm going to sort of do a redo of that meeting at the end of November. But I did a first draft of the mission statement, and yeah, we were talking about ways to increase capacity and outreach. We talked about maybe like expanding the geographical boundary. We talked about like the advantages of Easthampton Housing Coalition versus like the Valley Housing Coalition, or whatever, like what sort of constraints we have based on the geographic area that we're limiting ourselves to, and how that might be an advantage, but also a disadvantage in some ways. But again, since it was just us two, we didn't really make any decisions or anything like that.
I had sent an email to like a bunch of people that had responded to the first meeting. Did anybody new like contact you or ask to join the group? Just
I
curious.
got one person, and I emailed her and I was like, okay, great, like we're meeting tomorrow. And I didn't get any response, but I did add her directly to the Google group.
Okay. All right.
How many members are on the group? And I mean, clearly the numbers that you're emailing versus like the numbers that are showing up, not the same, but I'm just curious how many people are like subscribed, or what you've been seeing before the meetings previously.
Yeah, so right now, I think the Google group has a little bit over 20 people in it. And the Facebook group is a little bit larger.
All right.
Yeah.
That's not bad. They just need to show up to the meeting.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I sort of just skipped the whole like doodle poll meeting scheduling for the November thing because I just didn't have time. But it seems like that, like I just picked a date and I have more yes responses than I've ever gotten before. So so the November meeting looks somewhat promising.
Are you going to do your presentation again, the PowerPoint that you prepared? Yeah.
I'll probably keep this, like I'll do another a refresh of that data. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds great. Okay. Good. Oh, while three of us are here, can we approve the June and September meeting notes so I can send them to Barbara?
Yes.
Did you have a chance to look at them? Any comments, edits, questions?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Right. I still do a roll call, I guess, because we're hybrid.
Yep.
All right, Kayam,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Jana, yes, great, thank you. Great. Anybody have any other updates? I shared right before you came on, Kayam, that I was invited to join the board at Wayfinders, which is our big regional housing agency in Springfield.
Very cool.
Which I'm very excited.
Honored?
I am. I'm really excited, actually.
Yeah,
It's a really
congratulations.
big professional development opportunity for me because I've never been on a board like that before. But I'm also really excited to like keep hammering them on Hampshire County. And so, and maybe have an inside track on like what's going on over there. So I'm excited
Nice.
about that.
Mhm.
Good.
So I'll keep you posted if I've learned anything exciting. And I don't think I have anything else. Any other updates? I'm trying to think. I don't think so. So I'll work on a rewrite of like our mission and like what we do and circulate it before the next meeting, and then we could talk about it again in December. And then maybe come up with some, continue working on strategies, but I think that'll be something good to do like January, February, and then maybe get us some. You're right. We only need like 2 more. We don't need a whole lot of members. We just need like a couple
Let's
more.
focus on 2 and
Then be excited when we get 3.
yeah.
Okay. I like that.
I know
Three.
a few people in the SPP program that are also Easthampton residents, and when I tell them about this work, they seem excited. So I could try talking to them. They might also be like those young people that stick around for like 2 months, but you know, who knows?
Yeah.
If there's other things while you're looking at the partnership webpage, like that you want to see added or taken down, like it's a great opportunity to,
And do you do that?
yeah.
Okay. Great. If we want to change it, I mean, do we need approval from anybody to change anything as long as you don't think we're doing something inappropriate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, as long as it's like
Regular stuff.
professional and like you're not
Okay,
asking to post spam or, malware or something like that.
We
We'll try
start
to
personally calling out all of the city councilors on our
Right.
thing.
Right. The housing coalition can do stuff like that. The housing partnership cannot. That's a different. All right. Well, I think this is a great thing for us to work on. So I love having a project.
That's good timing.
It's good timing. All right. Well, I think that's all I have then. Happy Thanksgiving,
Yes.
everybody.
You too.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right. We'll see you in December. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.